Pnawn da, this is BBC One Wales. Now the BBC News at 1 o'clock with Hugh Edwards.
Millions marvel at the first total eclipse here for over 70 years. There was darkness before noon at the last full eclipse of the millennium. The once-in-a-lifetime event brings much of Britain to a standstill. One of nature's great wonders casts a shadow over much of Europe. And the latest shooting in America, police are still searching for the main suspect. Welcome to the BBC's news at 1 o'clock. No one who saw it in its full glory is likely to forget it. The last total eclipse of the millennium. Yes, the clouds did mar the view in Britain, but millions did catch a glimpse of one of the great wonders of nature. Right now, the best view is in Iran. These are the pictures from there as the moon's shadow crosses into Iran from the Black Sea and Iraq, moving towards India later on. Well, the eclipse crossed over Britain at around 11 this morning, and our first report is from Nicholas Witchell, who watched events in Devon and Cornwall.
Dawn on a day when the heavens promised much but delivered rather less. Even as it rose this morning, the sun was becoming obscured by a heavy band of cloud. It was to be the story of the day. The crowds had finally arrived in the southwest, hoping that this would be the one place to see something which has not been witnessed in Britain for 72 years. But by mid-morning, hopes of seeing the total eclipse had been all but abandoned. Heavy cloud stretched from horizon to horizon. Up above the clouds, flying at 29,000 feet, 3 times the intended height, an RAF Hercules was relaying live pictures of the eclipse. Just before 10 o'clock, just as the astronomers had calculated, the cameras in the sky picked up the moment known as first contact, when the edge of the moon, in the top right-hand corner here, starts its slow progress across the face of the sun. On the ground, people had brought viewing goggles, but they were barely used. Some were here for spiritual reasons, others scientific, most simply out of curiosity, to share in one of nature's most extraordinary experiences. 4 minutes past 11, the airborne camera showed that the eclipse was nearly complete. The moon's shadow was rushing in from the Atlantic. Light was starting to fall. On the Isles of Scilly, automatic streetlights came on. And then, at 11 minutes past 11, on the 11th day of the month, over the western tip of Cornwall, the last rays of light disappeared as the moon moved fully across the face of the sun. The eclipse was total. It was midnight at almost midday, and the darkness was racing across Cornwall and into South Devon. It's 13 minutes past 11 now. The moment of totality has just reached us here in Plymouth. Now, of course, we can't see it, but you can certainly feel it and sense it. The light went very quickly, and the temperature has dropped.
Like third contact coming. There's the return of the sun. Just have a quick glimpse at those red...
From the Channel Island of Alderney, it was possible to see glimpses of the eclipse through the clouds. This was the moment when the moon moved away and the sun's light started to return.
I thought it was lovely. Even in the bad condition, it was more than I expected. It was wonderful. You know, I'm very, very emotional, actually. I don't know why.
It's fabulous. It was incredible. I've never seen anything like it.
It was indeed a once-in-a-lifetime chance for Britain to view a total eclipse of the star which gives this planet life. An opportunity, though, marred by the British weather. Nicholas Witchell, BBC News, Plymouth.
Well, hundreds of thousands had made their way to Cornwall, slap in the middle of the band of moon shadow which was crossing the southwest of England, and they weren't going to let those few clouds spoil the day for them. Robert Hall is at Pendennis Castle in Falmouth. Robert.
Yes, Hugh, we watched those bands of cloud marching towards us well ahead of the eclipse. There was a feeling of foreboding, but with the number of people there were along the southwestern and southern coastlines, the sense of anticipation could not be diminished. And some of the crowd that were here to watch it have remained here to tell us a bit about it. Tell me, everybody said it's an emotional occasion. I know you were there to photograph it. You've come a long way. What did you make of it?
I thought it was a Gothic experience, I think. You know, it was quite sort of foreboding, but it was very, very uplifting at the same time.
Because you could see that shadow marching towards us, couldn't we? Even though we had that cloud.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just very, very uplifting, that's all.
A lot of people here have come a long way. Let's move across here, talk to a group who I know get together every year. If I can make my way through here. Tell me, I know that you had all your equipment set up on the top here. You didn't get a glimpse of the sun. Was it the same anyway, or was at least something you got out of it?
Well, yeah, we saw about a couple of minutes of partial, but we didn't see anything of the totality. But it's good to be with a big group of friends.
Had you seen an eclipse before?
No, I haven't, but others in the group have seen partial eclipses before.
And you'd come from the States, haven't you, to be here today?
Over from Oregon, in Bend.
Let's move the lady to one side.
Yeah, in Bend, Oregon. There's a few of us flew over from there, and as well as coming from all over Great Britain, especially for this event.
People keep talking about the power of this. Could you sense it, even though we had that bad weather at the wrong moment?
Absolutely. Being in the totality was a really amazing experience. It was something of wonderment, I would say.
OK, very, very quickly on the end here. We've got just a few seconds left. I gather in your family, there was a particular effect.
Yes. During totality, yeah, my daughter here decided that she thought it might be time to go to sleep.
For some relief. Thank you all very much for talking to me, and don't join the queues just yet. I understand they're very bad. Everyone heading home. Back to you, Hugh.
Robert, thank you very much indeed. Of course, thousands of people had chosen Devon to witness the eclipse. They were hoping the weather would be a little more forgiving than in Cornwall. When the big moment came, they were not disappointed. Jane O'Brien enjoyed some spectacular views with the crowds in Torbay.
With just a few minutes to go before totality, the tension was palpable. Even those who'd arrived at the last minute out of a vague curiosity were caught up in the excitement and party mood. But nothing could prepare anyone for the main event.
Oh my God!
It was a moment of magic for everyone as the shadow passed.
I just can't believe we've seen totality, and to see it in Devon is just unbelievable.
It's like from that way it came black, and then from that way it came light, so it was like really confusing, and like we didn't know where the sun was, but it's still coming out now. It's really good.
It's just fantastic. I didn't think I'd see anything at all, so I was thrilled, absolutely thrilled.
This was one of the few places where people could hope to snatch even a chance of seeing the sun, and they came from all over Europe, many making last-minute changes to travel plans.
Just nice to come down here and do something totally spontaneous, you know, and everybody else has gone to another point, so like we get the prime spot in this point, so it's quite good actually. It's worked out quite well.
We decided to leave home about 11 o'clock last night, try and miss the rush, the last-minute rush, and we arrived here purely by chance. Didn't fancy staying at Torquay or Paignton, came down here, and when we pulled up, everyone else seemed to have had the same idea. We got almost the last parking space.
The atmosphere here has been quite incredible, that just 1 minute and 30 seconds of darkness can cause so much excitement. And as people leave here today, they'll be taking with them a memory they'll treasure for the rest of their lives. Jane O'Brien, BBC News, Torbay.
Now, it's not all simply a matter of fun, of course. It's a serious business, too, for those scientists and astronomers who've waited many years, some of them, to see today's eclipse. Let's go to Falmouth once again and join Sue Nelson, who's with some of the experts. Sue.
Thank you, Hugh. Well, around 8,000 people gathered on and around Gillivays Beach here in Falmouth to view the total eclipse. Most of those who camped overnight have actually left, but one man remaining is astronomer David... sorry about that, but Peter Duffett-Smith from the University of Cambridge. You spent most of the eclipse actually in front of your computer. Why?
Well, I've written a computer simulation to compute on the computer screen what we should have been able to see had there not been all the clouds around.
And let's just see what you actually did manage to get.
Well, what we have here is a picture of the moon passing across the face of the sun, very much speeded up here. But had we been able to see it from here, we would have seen this in real time.
And is that why you actually did it, in case of cloud?
Well, no, having written the computer program, I was interested to see, in fact, whether what I had computed matched reality, and I'm delighted to say it did.
Well, that's not the only experiment that actually took place in here in Falmouth. Unfortunately, attempts to actually mark the indirect projections of the partial phases of eclipse ended up in absolutely nothing because of the cloud. But fortunately, one of the amateur astronomers, budding amateur astronomers here, Sarah Tunstall, you did some experiments and some of them have worked, haven't they?
Yes, we measured the light intensity during the eclipse and the temperature, and you can see the light intensity, despite the cloud, it still went really dark, and there was still a dramatic drop during totality, which is brilliant, which is what we really wanted. We also measured, using the radio, we measured changes in the ionosphere, which we haven't listened to yet, but to see whether that's worked, we've got to listen to about 40 minutes of radio fuzz.
Now you had experiments here for also wind direction, see how it affected plants as well. Now this is your second eclipse.
Yeah.
How did this one compare experimentally, considering with the cloud cover?
Well, experimentally it was still fantastic because it still did get dark and the radio works anyway, but I think didn't think it would look as good being cloud, but it was still fantastic and it's still an emotional experience. I really enjoyed it despite the cloud.
Well, thanks very much, Sarah. And most of these results are now going to be supplied to the Science Museum and go on a database, so they are of scientific importance. Back to you in the studio.
Intriguing stuff, Sue. Thanks a lot. Across Europe and Asia, tens of millions of people stopped to watch the eclipse. 3 hours ago, the moon's shadow began moving across the Atlantic, crossing Cornwall soon after 11 o'clock, peeking over Romania at midday before appearing over Iran just a few moments ago. Emma Simpson now looks at the best images of the eclipse from around the world.
As the eclipse crossed into northern France, the coast was lined with sky watchers, the crowds out in force to catch a glimpse of this once-in-a-lifetime event. Around midday, darkness descended in Stuttgart. This was the best place to see the eclipse in Germany, the flashlights from cameras everywhere, as the natural phenomenon raced across Europe. Out in space, this was the view from the Mir space station. The black swirling mass is the shadow of the moon on the Earth's surface as it blocks out the sun. In Hungary, some of the celebrations were almost pagan, harking back to the sort of ritual that might have been seen at the turn of the last millennium. The champagne was flowing in Romania. The eclipse lasted longer here than any place else on Earth. Thousands of tourists watched the solar blackout. But there was also a spiritual side to today's eclipse. In Algeria, prayers were performed, a scene repeated across many Muslim countries. Even the Pope didn't miss the spectacle. On his way to his summer residence, Pope John Paul II watched the sky in anticipation with a piece of specially strengthened glass. But according to scientists, the best eclipse viewing of all today is in Western Iran. Astrologers and tourists have gathered in their thousands to watch the last solar eclipse of the millennium. Emma Simpson, BBC News.
Many people have in fact been watching the eclipse on the internet. Many websites were swamped with calls, and BBC News Online has been flooded with emails from Britain and the rest of Europe. The address to send your email, if you want to, or to find out how many other people saw the eclipse and how they saw it, is www.bbc.co.uk/news. Now we'll have a little more on the eclipse a little later in the programme, but first let's have a look at the day's other news. Police are still searching for the man who opened fire in a Jewish community centre in Los Angeles last night. 5 people, 3 of them children, were injured in the attack, the latest in a series of shootings in the United States.
For a brief time late last night, the police thought they'd cornered their man.